Welcome to Beauty Flip. I'm Edda, and this is a podcast for people who thought they were the problem, but in fact, they never were. Yep, I am your guide to all ordinary humans who have extraordinary souls. So let's flip our script. Today, we're looking at perception and just why it trips us up. So let's begin, my lovely lovelies. Hello. Oh my gosh. Well, I have been talking about doing this episode, and we'll probably be doing more of these because it is such a big topic forever. Today, we dive into perception. Perception is so absolutely crazy powerful in the way that it creates all of our worlds. So we're going to first take a look at just, if you will, the basic science of perception, because I remember when I learned these facts, it blew my mind. So we are going to start there. So let's just start with something that might kind of be, oh goodness, something that just blow your mind and or just piss you off. So it is absolutely scientifically true that your brain basically is sitting in a black box. It cannot see, it cannot taste, it cannot hear, it cannot smell, and it cannot touch. It has no ability to do any of those things. So the way that our lovely little body works is that we, our brain, must interpret the neurons and the neuron signals that get sent to it. We, as lovely little human beings, when we first came, had all these inputs, and it was other human beings who basically guided us to how to listen to some, not all, of the inputs, ignoring other inputs, and ultimately paying attention to those. Now, maybe to some degree or another, this is great, this is fabulous, because if you and I were sitting in a room and we looked out at the sky through a window, we would most likely, if we saw that the sky was sunny and blue, say, wow, look at the blue sky, and we would be in agreement. So there's an important reason why humans teaching humans how to take the inputs of what their senses experience matters. Yet, at the very same time, that we can all sit here and point to a sky on a sunny day and say blue sky, it is important to really understand that before we take everything that we say, do, smell, hear, taste, touch, and hear, that we need to know that your brain has no direct access to the outside world. None, nada, never. Can't do it. If it did, you would be dead. Can't do it. Can't do it. Matter of fact, it lives, your brain, in complete darkness, complete silence, and it is sealed in a protected chamber, oh yes it is, inside your skull so that you can stay alive. It never touches light, sound, texture, flavor, or scent. It never, I'm going to say it again, touches light, sound, texture, flavor, or scent. Okay. And this is important. Some of you are like, okay, so my five senses, okay. What's the biggie? I'm going to tell you what the biggie is. You basically create an entire storyline, hello storyline of your life and everything else, hello life and everything else, because of your five senses and what you and your brain decide it all means. So we are diving into at a very, very cool scientific sort of core aspect of how we operate and are operationalized in our lovely little world, and it is flawed. We're going to go on a little further here. How the heck does all this happen? Let's explain. So first, as we're talking about this fabulous blue sky that we're looking out the window, when your eyes see light and the variations of light, so shadow and light and color, basically your eyes convert what it takes in and turns it into electrical impulses, and then zappity zap into the brain, and your brain basically decides to decipher that. Your brain has learned to decipher things through many, 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 many days, many hours, many minutes of learning from other human beings how to decipher what it is that you see and then how to translate those electrical impulses. Next, let's talk about listening. Your ears convert vibrations. So you hear a sound, right? And we all know that sound waves coming in into the ear. I guess me right now, my voice, my little weird tongue thing coming into the ear. And then that vibration also gets converted into an electrical impulse and then sent to the brain. And I think I remember saying this in like one of my very earliest episodes. In the very beginning of your fabulous little life, your brain knew nothing and was possibly able to learn everything. And in this case, the language that was spoken to you throughout your childhood and the way that your parents coached you to understand, and when they would agree and clap and be happy when you said certain things, informed your brain that certain things, again, certain vibrations were important and other vibrations were not important. Okay, we're going to continue on, and at some degree you're going to be like, yes, 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 I get it, I'm with you, but we're going to do all 5. So your nose smells something, all these lovely scents, perfumes, the smell of roasted coffee, the smell of tea, the smell of lotions, the smell of, delicious like soups and chilies and meals, right? And guess what it does? Oh, yep, you got it. Yes, it converts the molecules of the scent into, once again, we know where this is going, an electrical impulse. Ta-da! Your skin converts things like pressure and temperature into also electrical impulses. Your tongue converts the chemicals that touch it, and then obviously we have different receptors all over our tongue, so different ways that it receives the chemicals, and then yes it does, into electrical impulses. Okay, so basically our brain is one big electrical receptor. Hello, let me take all your electrical, things, impulses that you're telling me. And then through years and 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 years of training and being sort of like, if you will, sometimes maybe testing out things, but with first a guidebook through parents, school, potentially, in some degree, maybe religious, friends, family, your community. We'll just say community. You were given a guidebook. Your brain was given a guidebook on how to function in the world. And that's why we can say, if we just look across the world and go to any country, that things are either slightly different or insanely different, because the enculturation of every little baby being and every being ongoingly is what is needed for us to function in a society. Okay, again, you're like, got it. Great. Okay, let's talk more about how your brain puts it together. So your brain doesn't just receive the sensory data. I am here to receive, like it's an order taker, and then it just like does like some sort of bidding of your body. No. Your brain, your mind, basically first like takes the information and integrates it. Integrating, combining information, multiple senses. So for example, you see snow on the ground, you step outside, you feel cold, and when you breathe in, it is an experience of also potentially cold on your mouth. You're like, ooh, it's cold outside. Now, we can like extrapolate that experience and into many days, and then ultimately we see snow on the ground from inside and we think, oh, it's cold outside, and then we don't have to go through the other experiences. So sometimes multiple inputs teach your body through multiple experiences. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, it's cold outside. To finally maybe then extrapolate and get it into a more condensed version where then you just see, like my example, snow outside, right? So this is what we would then try to create as one example of our reality. Keyword, our reality. Because I hate to break it to you, all of us have different realities. Maybe to some degree we're slightly adjacent to each other's realities, but most of the times we are different realities. So cool. We're going to keep moving on. So your brain also, second thing it does, there are 4 here, filters. Filters, and this is so key. Oh my gosh, this one is going to like kind of piss you off. Filters what it needs to see, what it needs to take in, what it needs to pay attention to, and what it needs to ignore. Ignore that thing over there. I'm just going to give you a quick example. Let's say you decide to buy a red car, and then suddenly you see that red car everywhere. We hear these stories all the time. Let's say you find out you're pregnant. Oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. And then suddenly everyone around you, oh my God, look at all the pregnant people, right? This is examples of how our brain filters out certain things. And then when it becomes important to us, filters it in. Hello, fabulous little filtering system. Let's take that one a little deeper. So in a minute, we're going to get to our other 2 main points, emotion and perception, which is where we're going today. But I need to talk to you more about filtering and how critical it is that you understand how much your brain filters. Okay, there are 2, what science calls, neuroscience calls, types of blindness phenomena. So not like when we're actually blind or so bad of seeing blind, but actually how your brain filters out things. One of them is called inattentional blindness, and we're going to get to that in a second, as well as something that is called change blindness. They are related to one another, really critical, because guess what, my lovely lovelies? These are things that build perceptions and realities that are key maybe to your upbringing, but are not key to reality. Okay, so let's talk about inattentional blindness. So inattentional blindness basically is built there because your brain, if it needed to take in every single thing that was happening in every single second, you would basically be so overwhelmed with the amount of data. You basically are having inputs constantly through your body, through all of the senses, all the time. And ultimately, we're talking millions and millions of pieces of data that happen every second. Oh my God, millions right there. So your brain cannot consciously decipher what that it would sort through all of that. Most of that, matter of fact, all of it except for maybe like the smallest amount of percentage of like millions and millions and millions. Like we're talking like somewhere close to like 11 million pieces of data every second. We are only actually filtering in about 10, something like that. So basically, like right now, you might be sitting in a car, you might notice like yourself driving, you hear my voice, you are aware of maybe the steering wheel, you are potentially aware of the seat, how your clothes feel on you, maybe you're drinking something to drink, you have a little moment of tasting something. There you go. Ta-da, look at you. What you're not aware of are potentially the cars that are zipping by you or behind you. You potentially have no concept of consciously what is happening to the sides of your body and maybe slightly outside of your periphery, and so on and so forth. So this is important because if we were out in the wild in intentional blindness, this is so key to understand. Inattentional blindness would help you focus on the dangers that are out there. Ooh, a tiger is coming, and not focus on potentially, gosh, my shorts are making me itch. So it tries to help you focus on what your brain thinks are the important thing. How does your brain know that? Well, in this example, a tiger is like important because, oh, your life is at risk. But generally, day in, day out, what your brain decides to filter out is based on past experiences. Okay, that might be a problem. The second thing that is so similar, so very close, is something that is called change blindness. And this one is ultimately where we fail to notice a change. This is potentially when you are in an environment, and specifically maybe like a really large environment, you might not notice if things are changing in the environment. Again, it's because we are always trying to focus on the more important pieces of data. And so sometimes things that are potentially not considered important to your brain and your functioning will not choose to notice all the things that are changing in the environment, which sometimes is not a good thing. So ultimately in this, if you want to see, and I'll put up into the podcast description, I'll give you 2 links so you yourself can test yourself on your change blindness and your inattentional blindness. And you know what, if you get it right, good for you. That just means that either A, you got 1 right, but there's a million ways that science can prove that you too have inattentional blindness and change blindness. So what I am talking about here is that ultimately your brain has so many inputs, millions, and ultimately your brain must filter it out and help you kind of function through the day. If you're like at work and you need to get something done, your brain will filter out perhaps that somebody left a chair, change blindness, and went and got coffee. You might not even notice that they left the room, right? We've all had that moment. If you are in a situation and you are needing to ultimately make some very specific choices about, let's say, this project, you might filter out certain aspects that have nothing to do with the project. For example, someone is on their phone and they're not working, but you're crunching on a deadline, and normally you would care about what that person was doing or not doing in the office, but today you don't care. Okay, so hopefully this helps explain filtering. Now we're going to go into our last 2. So the next layer in this little thing where your brain is taking in these electrical impulses is that it kind of takes what it is being fed, electrical impulses, and it goes into sort of our emotion centers, our limbic centers, which I'll say a little bit about. I'm not going to go too much into. Believe you me, this is quite a topic. But ultimately, it goes in there to like get data. What does this mean? What does this mean, this data that the 5 senses are giving me? And one of the places it looks for, sort of, if you will, a layering of meaning is potentially past experiences that had emotions tied to it. Oh, okay. So ultimately, it dives into your limbic system. It dives into your emotion, memory, motivation, and survival, which is key because that's a big part of what our brain is here for. Like, hey, your mom and dad had you and you seem to be trucking along, but I just want to keep you alive. So here's what we're doing, right? So ultimately, it basically takes memories of potentially similar electrical impulses and pretty much grades them to see, yeah, this might be similar, and then it makes a point. Oh, well, then we're going in this direction. For example, like, let's just say the emotion of like a song that you hear on the radio. We've all had this one, and that song brings back memories of something that happened with your girlfriends or boyfriends, and maybe it was 8th grade or high school, and it was sweet and it was lovely, and you're just so happy. You're just so happy when you just hear the electrical impulses from a song. But it brings it all back, right? So that's just like one crazy good example of how the electrical impulses get changed into something that has meaning for us. And then ultimately we might, this is the crazy thing, depending on what we're experiencing and the electrical impulses, decide what hormones to release into our body. Because ultimately our hormones are a big way that we send out, if you will, chemical responses so that the body also then responds. So emotions are big. Emotions help us really decide a lot of things. We also will allow ourselves with our feelings to tap into our sort of thinking side, and there is our cingulate cortex that really kind of helps connecting those two. So ultimately we might be having a lot of feelings and then we're also having some thinking. But again, all of this is first based on electrical impulses. So ultimately here we are, we're assigning an emotional context for the senses that we're bringing in, and then ultimately potentially sending out hormones to potentially get the body to do certain things in response to what it is that we decide. To some degree or another, and this is a really crazy study, this is instinctual. Often the decisions that we make happen far before we even have a conscious thought about why we made them. Oh, that is such a bummer. That is such a bummer. I'm going to say it again. Often, the things that we do, the decisions we make, the things that we think we know what we're doing, they happen unconsciously in the brain, deep within the brain. The hormones are released. The things that we decide happen far before we even have a conscious thought. Oh my God. That just is crazy. But again, let's put it into context. If you are literally in the wild and you're looking at a tiger who might eat you, you don't want to have to sit there and have a conscious thought about, do I run? Do I hide? Do I try to pet the tiger? Do I try to, just do. So unfortunately, our brain is fast. It's so fast. It's so fast. So ultimately, the conscious thought is often just a passed by and things are already on the go. Let's take a look at the last aspect of what drives all four of these things. So we have the sensory input, and we're now on our fourth one, which is perception. Perception is basically your brain's interpretation, hear that word, interpretation of all of the sensory information based on multiple layers of how your brain has been organized, the pathways by which it receives information and then doles it back out into the body, making multitudes of decisions about what to filter out, not interested, and what to filter in. Oh yeah, you seem familiar. A big part of what we filter in is something that seems familiar to us, or quote unquote, what your brain thinks is important. Yeah. So when we look at perception, and by the way, I hope you're getting it, all of us are only perceiving all the time. Nothing is really fully real. This is all an illusion. Your world that you have created is an illusion, is all through perception based on things that you decided yesterday, the day before that, and all the way back to when you were an itty bitty baby. Hello, itty bitty baby. Where you were being informed and given suggestions and coached to how your brain should map the world. Perception. Perception is your brain is. You are. So if I say perception, I want you to think perception, brain, me. Got it? Perception is your brain is. You are selective in what you choose to see or feel or hear or touch or taste. You interpret data all the time because unfortunately, in order to survive, you were taught first, and then now actually potentially to some degree or another choose to continue to interpret what is important to you. It is shaped by memory. All the memories that you've ever had, it is shaped by those. It is shaped by emotion. Yes, it is. It is shaped by expectations. Remember, we talked about all those little sort of goals and fantasies, shaped by goals and fantasies. It is shaped by your past experiences. Oh, this feels familiar. I've been here before. I know exactly what's going to happen. It is also shaped by your nervous system, which is partially in your brain. It is all throughout your body. And your nervous system, like your brain, is trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you alive. So it is always trying to sense where things might be safe or unsafe. And remember, what is safe or unsafe was something that was taught to you through experiences of other human beings, and maybe your childhood, and maybe stories about your family or friends and their childhood and their upbringing. What this means, my lovely little human beings, yes it does, is two people can stand in the exact same room and see the exact same thing and have two very different realities. Oh my God. Believe you me, what I know to be absolutely 100% true is change your beliefs, change your world. So we have been diving into the waters of trying to break down our belief systems. We, as I have said, have been fed for a very long time that it is so important in how to play on the uneven playing field, this crazy sort of way that our world has been built up and calling us to, you know, if you will, live, perform, constantly kind of be agitated against one another, potentially at best, see if we can outdo one another, at worst, tear each other down. Mean girl much? Yeah, all of us are mean girls. Yes, we are, because we have perceptions that the uneven playing field is real. We were told it was real from the very first time we were like able to understand that. And we now constantly, our brain is constantly in agreement with that. And so it sorts the data that it is being given, all those 11 million bits of data, not interested, not interested, not interested. So what I'm trying to say is imagine this one. Someone is really maybe kind, really absolutely friendly. Oh my gosh, even as a hugger. You might think in your little world, oh, what do they want from me? And maybe they're just like kind and overly friendly and just a hugger. But in our world, we would think, oh, that's dangerous. Don't let yourself have any of that. Brrr. So unfortunately, we are so geared to look for everything that fits in the perspective of the uneven playing field, ta-da, that we will absolutely filter out all sorts of stuff that actually is also there in our data, in our senses, being filtered into our brain, but we will ignore it so that we keep the story going about what we believe. Yes, my lovely little ladies, my lovely little men, my lovely little children, my lovely little old people, whoever you are, all of us sit here walking around with whatever color glasses, trying to perceive a world. And what we're really doing is almost like if we are in like those game glasses, and none of us are in the same world, none of us. And though we might all agree that the sky is blue and grass is green, that's about where we stop. And so we ultimately create the heaven or hell that we are living in. Oh my God. We give ourselves data for why we should come over to our calculating machine. Haven't done it for a while. We give ourselves, we feed ourselves the data. Oh my God, it's time to do the mindfuck math because these things told my brain that this is what's happening, so I am now going to do some mind fuck math so that I can figure out how to work in the reality that I perceive that keeps me moving forward on the uneven playing field. Look at this. I just want you to get this. If you decided to change your reality, if you decided to say, hell's bells, I am not going to play this game anymore. I am not going to play it. I'm going to pick a new game, and I'm going to train my brain how to start seeing and taking in perception. Yeah, and I'm going to become something else. This is what is so absolutely cool about perception and belief, is that we can change our world if we choose to focus on new, different things. So absolutely cool, powerful, amazing. You are so cool, powerful, amazing. Yes, my God. This lovely little thing that you have in your head that weighs probably somewhere around 6 to 8 pounds, that is locked in a black box, is just looking for data. And then its job is to crunch, like a good old mathematician, what you feed it in order to tell you, this is the calculations that we came up with, so now you live your life like this. It is ultimately just like, hello, you feed me the data, I will crunch the numbers, and then we will make a decision. Or actually, it will say, I'll make a decision, because the decisions are not made consciously. The key to breaking up what your brain is twofold. One, hello, welcome to reality. This is reality. You are perceiving all the time. You and everyone around you are building what they think reality is. Two, we look for patterns. Our brain tries to interpret things and looks for patterns in our world. And so we will then ultimately try to find patterns in things that are absolutely not even real or actually a pattern in the world. So it's important that we know that, oh my God, thanks. I guess that and a cup of coffee is going to get me up this morning. It is also important, my lovely, lovely lovies, to decide to question. Question. Remember when we said this? Question. Question reality. Question. Question, what the heck is this? Now, here's the deep thing. It's not just question power, question authority. That's great. That's one place. But question, truthfully, mostly yourself. Question, what am I doing? And is this actually, like, is this just something I'm doing because it's habitual? Because chances are it is. When you're making a decision, realize that most likely what happened in making the decision is prediction was first, and then perception layered in, and ultimately your brain is making a guess based on different sensory data coming in, and memories. Memories fill in the gaps. Memories are there to kind of like give you, if you will, a storyline of potentially what happened in the past and what might happen now. Your emotions and things that you've experienced before in similar situations will absolutely 100% color every single thing that you do. And your brain is editing reality constantly. Edit, 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 edit. So at best, remember when I said, like, when you do a snap, you are only really conscious of like 11 bits of data compared to the millions and millions and millions of pieces of data that actually is coming in. Your reality is probably based on just like 11 bits of data. Certainly that's all you're conscious to. So it is really key to flip this script, my lovelies. Oh my God, let's flip this script. This is not easy, but damn, I enjoy flipping my script when it comes to consciousness and when it comes to like looking at my reality and seeing where, ooh, I've had some mistaken beliefs. Don't we all? So there's something insanely redemptive about that. There's something so fabulous about deciding, oh, maybe I, like every other one of the billions of human beings on this planet have some flawed thinking. And maybe also like, oh, that thinking worked yesterday but doesn't work today. And now with new openness, I am going to be curious. Oh, remember that episode? Curiosity, yes. Remember when I was telling us all of these pieces, if you will, almost like a little breadcrumb trail. Like Hansel and Gretel, going into the woods, except for I'm not an ugly witch and I'm not going to eat you. And when I put you into the oven, I've been laying down a pathway for you of how to break the perception of what you think is reality and choose to go on a really amazing journey of consciousness and healing. Oh, such a key word. Looking for data where you have not looked before, choosing to break down storylines that might feel accurate because your brain has written the storyline and is choosing to filter data to keep that storyline going, and choosing to question all of it, question yourself, question the uneven playing field that keeps you stuck on a treadmill, keeps you so afraid, keeps you so unsure. Part of flipping the script is this bigger thing of like really becoming conscious to your narrator of your life. Looking at, wow, my gosh, why do I react this way? What is that to me? Why is this what I think is true? And maybe, to Edda's earlier points, maybe that is just a story that I tell myself and others, and maybe there's the bigger what so that is something I've had inattentional blindness or change blindness, unwilling to look at and have been filtering out of my perception. That ultimately we have the opportunity to even face the things that feel emotionally upsetting, hurtful, sad, all these things, and heal them. This to me is one of the biggest scripts I really want people to flip, is healing. That anything that has happened in your past or any experience you're happening right now, there is an invitation to heal. Because either we get back up on that uneven playing field and we suit up and we have our cleats and we're ready to do more damage to others and potentially to ourselves, or we choose, we turn away from the uneven playing field and we suit up potentially in curiosity, in wonder, in the magnificence of everything that we have been given, and truthfully start to discover what is so magnificent about this world, what is so magnificent about your body, what is so magnificent about your relationship with spirit and source. Yes, that becomes a journey that suddenly your brain begins to rewire, remap, and suddenly you begin to see things, ooh, that were there all along. Oh. And you begin to rewire your narratives and the things that you believe are actually happening. So, enjoy your perceptions today. Let your brain do all the things that it does, but know most of it is actually yesterday's thinking, or at least, I don't know, decades old thinking, and today you get to change your script. I'll see you next week. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper, but soon, my lovely little human beings, we're going to meet someone who actually flipped her script, changed her perception, and really made a difference in her life and a whole bunch of other people's lives. Thanks for joining me and looking at the power of perception. Next week, we are going to start all over again and figure out why we are on this stupid, uneven playing field doing the mind fuck math. Okay, see you next week.